well today as usual. And in today's video, I'm going to be reading to you. It's one of my favorite types of ASMR videos, so I thought I would do some because I'm currently actually in my childhood house after being away for quite a while, and I found out I had more books than I actually knew I had. So yeah, I thought maybe I'd just read some. I could make this into a series if you guys liked it enough and stuff like that. So yeah, I would love to make this into a series. I really like reading as well. So yeah, let's just get started because I don't know how long this will take. And the book that I'm going to be reading today is Circe by Madeline Miller. So, Circe by Madeline Miller, and it's Greek mythology. It's a fairly popular book, so I wouldn't be surprised if you knew it and have maybe already read it as well. I've read it once and I gave it 3.5 stars. This is the side. I really like the cover. That's actually kind of why I got it. It's just Circe's face, her eyelids, her eyes, her nose, her eyebrows that lead down to her nose, her mouth, her crown, kind of like a tiara, and then I think her hair. I'm just going to read the back quickly. In the house of Helios, god of the sun and mightiest of the Titans, a daughter is born. But Circe is a strange child, not powerful like her father, nor viciously alluring like her mother. Turning to the world of mortals for companionship, she discovers that she does possess power, the power of witchcraft, which can transform rivals into monsters and menace the gods themselves. Threatened, Zeus banishes Circe to a deserted island where she hones her occult craft and crosses paths with many of the famous figures in all of mythology, including the Minotaur, Daedalus, and his doomed son Icarus, the murderous Medea, and of course wily Odysseus. But there is danger too, for a woman who stands alone, and Circe unwillingly draws the wrath of both men and gods, ultimately finding herself pitted against one of the most terrifying and vengeful of the Olympians. To protect what she holds dear, Circe must summon all her strength and choose, once and for all, whether she belongs with the god she was born from or the mortal she has come to love. I'm actually going to wear my glasses. I'm just going to take it out of the box, because I forgot that I can read without my glasses, but it makes my eyes very blurry. So yeah, let's just start this over again, pretend I had my glasses on. So yeah, let's just get started. If that summary interests you, you can keep on listening, but yeah. I'm gonna read a chapter, by the way. I'm not gonna read the whole book, because the whole book is like 400 pages, I think. Yeah, like 400 pages. So I'm not gonna read the whole book, but in case you guys like it so much, I could maybe do like chapter 2 or something, or even chapter 2, 3, and 4, depending how long it is and stuff. But yeah, let's just do this for now. For now. Okay, so let's start. Circe, right there. You might also know Madeline Miller from her pretty popular book, The Song of Achilles, which I think is also an LGBTQ, I think, Greek mythology also. Okay, for Nathaniel, and it says something in Greek that I do not know. Like, I don't know what it is. I'll put it up here as a picture, but I don't know Greek. Okay. Chapter 1. When I was born, the name for what I was did not exist. They called me Nymph, assuming I would be like my mother and aunts and 1,000 cousins. Least of the lesser goddesses, our powers were so modest they could scarcely ensure our eternities. We spoke to fish and nurtured flowers, coaxed drop from the clouds or salt from the waves. That word, nymph, paced out the length and breadth of our futures. In our language, it means not just goddess, but bride. My mother was one of them, a naive guardian of fountains and streams. She caught my father's eye when he came to visit the halls of her own father, Oceanus. Helios and Oceanus were often at each other's tables in those days. They were cousins and equal in age, though they did not look it. My father glowed bright as just forged bronze, while Oceanus had been born with rheumy eyes and a white beard to his lap. Yet they were both Titans, and preferred each other's company to those new squeaking gods upon Olympus who had not seen the making of the world. Oceanus' palace was a great wonder, set deep in the earth's rock. Its high arched halls were gilded, the stone floors smoothed by centuries of divine feet. I'm just gonna move this bit. Through every room ran the faint sound of Oceanus River, source of the world's fresh waters, so dark you could not tell where it ended and the rock bed began. On its banks grew grass and soft gray flowers, and also the unnumbered children of Oceanus, naiads and nymphs and river gods. Otters sleek laughing, their faces bright against the dusky air, they passed golden goblets among themselves and wrestled, playing games of love. In their midst, outshining all that lily beauty, sat my mother. Her hair was a warm brown, each strand so lustrous it seemed lit from within. She would have felt my father's gaze, hot as gusts from a bonfire. I see her arrange her dress so it drapes just so over her shoulders. I see her dab her fingers, glinting in the water. I have seen her do 1,000 such tricks 1,000 times. My father always fell for them. He believed the world's natural order was to please him. "Who is that?" my father said to Oceanus. Oceanus had many golden-eyed children from my father already, and was glad to think of more. "My daughter, Circe. Circe? She is yours if you want her." The next day, my father found her by her fountain pool in the upper world. It was a beautiful place, crowded with fat-headed narcissus, woven over with oak branches. There was no muck, no slimy frogs, only clean, round stones giving way to grass. Even my father, who cared nothing for the subtleties of nymph arts, admired it. My mother knew he was coming. Frail she was, but crafty, with a mind like a spiked-toothed eel. She saw where the path to power lay for such as her, and it was not in bastards and river-bank tumbles. When he stood before her, arrayed in his glory, she laughed at him. "Lie with you? Why should I?" My father, of course, might have taken what he wanted, but Helios flattered himself that all women went eager to his bed, slave girls and divinities alike. His altar smoked with the proof, offerings from big-bellied mothers and happy byblows. "It is marriage," she said to him, "or nothing. And if it is marriage, be sure you may have what girls you like in the field, but you bring none home, for only I will hold sway in your halls." Conditions, constrainment. These were novelties to my father, and gods love nothing more than novelty. "A bargain," he said, and gave her a necklace to seal it, one of his own making, strung with beads of rarest amber. Later, when I was born, he gave her a second strand, and another for each of my 3 siblings. I do not know which she treasured more, the luminous beads themselves, or the envy of her sisters when she wore them. I think she would have gone right on collecting them into eternity until they hung from her neck like a yoke on an ox if the high gods had not stopped her. By then they had learned what the 4 of us were. "You may have other children," they told her, "only not with him." but other husbands did not give amber beads. It was the only time I ever saw her weep. At my birth, an aunt, I will spare you her name because my tale is full of aunts, washed and wrapped me. Another tended to my mother, painting the red back on her lips, brushing her hair with ivory combs. A third went to the door to admit my father. "A girl," my mother said to him, wrinkling her nose. But my father did not mind his daughters, who were sweet-tempered and golden as the first press of olives. Men and gods paid dearly for the chance to breed from their blood, and my father's treasury was said to rival that of the king of the gods himself. He placed his hand on my head in blessing. "She will make a fair match," he said. "How fair?" My mother wanted to know. This might be consolation, if I could be traded for something better. My father considered, fingering the wisp of my hair, examining my eyes and the cut on my cheeks. "A prince, I think." "A prince?" my mother said. "You do not mean a mortal?" The revulsion was plain on her face. Once when I was young, I asked what mortals look like. My father said, "You may say they are shaped like us, but only as the worm is shaped like the whale." My mother had been simpler, like savage bags of rotten flesh. "Surely she will marry a son of Zeus," my mother insisted. She had already begun imagining herself at feast upon Olympus, sitting at Queen Hera's right hand. No, her hair is streaked like a lynx, and her chin, there is a sharpness to it that is less than pleasing. My mother did not argue further. Like everyone, she knew the stories of Helios' temper when he was crossed. However gold he shines, he does not forget his fire. She stood. Her belly was gone, her waist reknitted, her cheeks fresh and virgin rosy. All her kind recovered quickly, but she was faster still. One of the daughters of Oceanus, who shoot their babies like roe. "Come," she said, "let us make a better one." I grew quickly. My infancy was the work of hours, my toddlerhood a few moments beyond that. An aunt stayed on hoping to curry favor with my mother and named me Hawk, Circe, from my yellow eyes, and the strained, thin sound of my crying. But when she realized that my mother no more noticed her service than the ground at her feet, she vanished. "Mother," I said, "Aunt is gone." My mother didn't answer. My father had already departed for his chariot in the sky, and she was winding her hair with flowers, preparing to leave through the secret ways of water, to join her sisters on their grassy river banks. I might have followed, but then I would have had to sit all day at my aunt's feet while they gossiped of things I did not care for and could not understand, so I stayed. My father's halls were dark and silent. His palace was a neighbor to Oceanus, buried in the earth rock, and its walls were made of polished obsidian. Why not? They could have been anything in the world. Blood-red marble from Egypt, or balsam from Araby. My father had only to wish it so. But he liked the way the obsidian reflected his light, the way its slick surfaces caught fire as he passed. Of course, he did not consider how black it would be when he was gone. My father had never been able to imagine the world without himself in it. I could do what I liked at those times, light a torch and run to see the dark flames follow me, lie on the smooth earth floor and wear small holes in its surface with my fingers. There were no grubs or worms, though I didn't know to miss them. Nothing lived in those halls except for us. When my father returned at night, the ground rippled like the flank of a horse, and the holes I had made smoothed themselves over. A moment later, my mother returned, smelling of flowers. She ran to greet him, and he let her hang from his neck, accepted the wine, went to his great silver chair. I followed at his heels. "Welcome home, father. Welcome home." While he drank his wine, he played draughts. No one was allowed to play with him. He placed the stone counters, spun the board, and placed them again. My mother drenched her voice in honey. "Will you not come to bed, my love?" She turned before him slowly, showing the lushness of her figure as if she were roasting on a spit. Most often he would leave his game then, but sometimes he did not, and those were my favorite moments, for my mother would go, slamming the mirror-wood door behind her. At my father's feet, the whole world was made of gold. The light came from everywhere at once. His yellow skin, his lambent eyes, the bronze flashing of his hair. His flesh was hot as brazier, and I pressed as close as he would let me, like a lizard to noonday rocks. My aunt had said that some of the lesser gods could scarcely bear to look at him, but I was his daughter and blood, and I stared at his face so long that when I looked away it was pressed upon my vision still, glowing from the floors, the shining walls, and inlaid tables, even my own skin. "What would happen," I said, "if a mortal saw you in your fullest glory? You would be burned to ash in a second. What if a mortal saw me?" My father smiled. I listened to the draught pieces moving, the familiar rasp of marble against wood. "The mortal will count himself fortunate. I would not burn him." "Of course not," he said. "But my eyes are like yours." "No," he said. "Look." His gaze fell upon a log at the fireplace's side. It glowed, then flamed, then fell as ash to the ground. "And that is the least of my powers. Can you do as much?" All night I stared at the logs. I could not. My sister was born, and my brother soon after that. I cannot say how long it was exactly. Divine days fall like water from a cataract, and I had not learned yet the mortal trick of counting them. You'd think my father would have taught us better, for he, after all, knows every sunrise. But even he used to call my brother and sister twins. Certainly, from the moment of my brother's birth, they were entwined like minks. My father blessed them both with one hand. "You," he said to my luminous sister, Pasiphae, "you will marry an eternal son of Zeus." He used his prophecy voice, the one that spoke of future certainties. My mother glowed to hear it, thinking of the robe she would wear to Zeus's feasts. "And you," he said to my brother, in his regular voice, resonant, clear as a summer's morning, "every son reflects upon his mother." My mother was pleased with this, and took it as permission to name him. She called him Perseus, for herself. The two of them were clever, and quickly saw how things stood. They loved to stare at me behind their ermine paws. Her eyes are yellow as piss. Her voice is screechy as an owl. She was called Hawk, but she could be called Goat for her ugliness. Those were their earliest attempts at barbs, still dull, but day by day they sharpened. I learned to avoid them, and they soon found better sport among the infant Naiads and river lords in Oceanus' halls. When my mother went to her sisters, they followed and established dominion over all our pliant cousins, hypnotized like minnows before the pike's mouth. They had 100 tormenting games that they devised. "Come, Amelia," they coaxed, "it is the Olympian fashion to cut off your hair to the nape of your neck." "How will you ever get a husband if you don't let us do it?" When Amelia saw herself shorn like a hedgehog and cried, they would laugh till the caverns echoed. I left them to it. I preferred my father's quiet halls and spent every second I could at my father's feet. One day, perhaps as a reward, he offered to take me with him to visit his sacred herd of cows. This was a great honor, for it meant I might ride in his golden chariot and see the animals that were the envy of all the gods, 50 pure white heifers that delighted his eyes on his daily path over the earth. I leaned over the chariot's jeweled side, watching in wonder at the earth passing beneath, the rich green of forests, the jagged mountains, and the wide outflung blue of the ocean. I looked for mortals, but we were too high up to see them. The herd lived on the grassy island of Thyranaki, with 2 of my half-sisters as caretakers. When we arrived, these sisters ran at once to my father and hung from his neck, exclaiming, "Of all my father's beautiful children, they were among the most beautiful." With skin and hair like molten gold, Lampedia and Phaethosa, their names were, radiant and shining. "And who is this you have brought with you? She must be one of Perseus' children. Look at her eyes." "Of course, Lampedia." I thought it was Lampedia, stroked my hair. "Darling, your eyes are nothing to worry about, nothing at all. Your mother is very beautiful, but she has never been strong." "My eyes are like yours," I said. "How sweet. No, darling. Ours are bright as fire, and our hair like sun on the water. You're clever to keep yours in a braid, Phaedrosa said. The brown streaking does not look so bad then. It is a shame you cannot hide your voice the same way. She could never speak again. That would work. Would it not, sister? So it would, they smiled. Shall we go to see the cows? I had never seen a cow before, of any kind, but it did not matter. The animals were so obviously beautiful that I needed no comparison. Their coats were pure as lily petals, and their eyes gentle and long-lashed. Their horns had been gilded. That was my sister's doing. And when they bent to crop the grass, their necks dipped like dancers. In the sunset light, their backs gleamed glossy soft. Oh, I said, may I touch one? No, my father said. Shall we tell you their names? That is Whiteface, and that is Bright Eyes, and that Darling. There is Lovely Girl, and Pretty, and Golden Horn, and Gleaming. There is Darling, and there is... You named Darling already, I said. You said that one was Darling. I pointed to the first cow, peacefully chewing. My sisters looked at each other, then at my father, a single golden glance. But he was gazing at his cows in abstracted glory. You must be mistaken, they said. This one we just said is Darling, and this one is Starbright, and this one is Flashing, and... My father said, What is this? A scab upon Pretty? Immediately my sisters were falling over themselves. What scab? Oh, it cannot be. Oh, wicked Pretty, to have hurt yourself. Oh, wicked thing, that hurt you. I leaned close to see. It was a very small scab, smaller than my smallest fingernail, but my father was frowning. You will fix it by tomorrow. My sisters bobbed their heads. Of course, we are so sorry. We stepped again into the chariot, and my father took up the silver-tipped reins. My sisters pressed a last few kisses to his hands, then the horses leapt, swinging us through the sky. The first constellations were already peeping through the dimming light. I remembered how my father had once told me that on Earth there were men called astronomers whose task it was to keep track of his rising and setting. They were held in highest esteem among mortals, kept in palaces as counselors of kings, but sometimes my father lingered over one thing or another and threw their calculations into despair. Then the astronomers were hauled before the kings they served and killed as frauds. My father had smiled when he told me. It was what they deserved, he said. Helios the sun was bound to no will but his own, and none mighty say what he would do. Father, I said that day, are we late enough to kill astronomers? We are, he answered, shaking the jingling reins. The horses surged forward, and the world blurred beneath us. The shadows of night smoking from the sea's edge. I did not look. There was a twisting feeling in my chest, like cloth being wrung dry. I was thinking of those astronomers. I imagined them, low as worms, sagging and bent. Please, they cried, on bony knees. It wasn't our fault. The sun itself was late. The sun is never late, the kings answered from their thrones. It is blasphemy to say so. You must die. And so the axes fell and chopped those pleading men in two. Father, I said, I feel strange. You are hungry, he said. It is past time for the feast. Your sisters should be ashamed of themselves for delaying us. I ate well at dinner, yet the feeling lingered. I must have had an odd look on my face, for Perseus and Pasiphae began to snicker from their couch. Did you swallow a frog? No, I said. This only made them laugh harder, rubbing their draped limbs on each other like snakes polishing their scales. My sister said, And how were our father's golden heifers? Beautiful. Perseus laughed. She doesn't know. Have you ever heard of anyone so stupid? Never, my sister said. I shouldn't have asked, but I was still drifting in my thoughts, seeing those severed bodies sprawled on marble floors. What don't I know? My sister's perfect mink face. That even, of course. That's how he makes new ones. He turns into a bull and sires their calves, then cooks the ones that get old. That's why everyone thinks they are immortal. He does not. They howled, pointing at my reddened cheeks. The sound drew my mother. She loved my siblings' japes. We're telling Circe about the cows, my brother told her. She didn't know. My mother's laughter. Silver as a fountain down its rocks. Stupid Circe. Such were my years then. I would like to say that all the while I waited to break out, but the truth is, I'm afraid I might have floated on, believing those dull miseries were all there was, until the end of days. I forgot they kind of have a bit of inappropriate stuff, but I should expect that from a Greek mythology book. I'm gonna hopefully put a warning or something. But yeah, that is chapter 1. Now we are on page 14. That is chapter 2. And it's already nearly 30 minutes, so I'm gonna call it a day because I don't know how long the second chapter is, but if it's as long as the first one, we're gonna be here for an hour. This isn't overall my favorite book, but the cover is definitely one of my favorites. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope my voice was soothing, because now right here, my throat feels a bit sore, so I'm gonna probably go scream after this. No, but yeah, I'm exaggerating. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you liked it, you can give it a like, and you can comment also down if you're interested in other books or the same exact book, but maybe a specific chapter or something. You can let me know in the comments, or if you want me to read a completely different book, I have a selection of books that I already have planned out, and I will be recording in the next few days, then uploading it. But yeah, also please tell me how you like this style, because this is new and it's a bit of a longer format, but I do enjoy them. So yeah, I will see you in my next video. Subscribe if you're new, and I will, keep you posted with new stuff. So yeah. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next